Hello there viewers, Axel here. Welcome to another Axel Tech video. I haven't done that intro in a long time now. Today, we are taking a quick look at the Ubuntu Mate 1910 beta. I've done several takes of this video. The first few were kind of just reading over the blog post that Martin Wimpress put out about it, which I am still definitely going to acknowledge that in this take because it's very thorough, but we'll get to that in a moment. So, Ubuntu Mate, it's not an Ubuntu flavor that I've covered on the channel before, but it is one that I've kept an eye on because they do so many great things to make for a user-friendly experience. The Mate desktop is not for me, which is why I've never really covered this flavor before, but it is very much worth noting because they just do so many things right. So first things first, this is not the default layout. The default is the familiar layout, which looks something like this. You have the panel at the top and at the bottom. Panel at the top, you have shortcuts. The Firefox launcher is there by default. And then on the bottom is where you're kind of more managing apps that you already have open. Speaking of changing the layouts, though, one thing that they've changed with this release, technically they already had this feature available in Mate Tweaks, but they've improved upon it as there was some bugs before with the Mate panel where sometimes when you switched the layout, the panel would just like disappear among other little issues. Those have been ironed out, as have a bunch of other little bugs with the Ubuntu Mate 1910 release. Well, I say release, it's still in beta, but yeah, so they fixed the issues with the Mate panel and have now added a graphical layout switcher within the Ubuntu Mate Welcome, which the Welcome app is also very nice for new users. I think Ubuntu Budgie uses a fork of it, if I'm not mistaken. I think some other distros might as well, but yeah, it's a very great thing to help new users get on board with Ubuntu Mate. Gives you links to some introduction stuff for some basic information. You have features, which, well, goes over features of it, understandably. And then getting started, which is very helpful for any initial setup / onboarding stuff you might want to do. And you get a community link, which goes to ubuntumate.community, which it looks like their community forums. And then also social media links. I like how the Mastodon link is very prominent there. Good to see. So, there's also a chat room. I'm assuming that's IRC. That is through IRC with Hex Chat. Okay. And then I'll go over this a little bit more in a moment, but the software boutique is also a very nice thing that Ubuntu Mate does. In a sense, it's similar to the Elementary App Center in that it's a curated selection of apps. The difference being, these aren't necessarily designed and developed for Ubuntu Mate, but it's a curated selection of like the best apps from these various categories that are within the Ubuntu repos, as well as a number of apps that are not in the Ubuntu repository, such as, if we go to internet, we have Brave. That's not in the Ubuntu repository. They're just grabbing that from the Brave releases source. So there's a bunch of nice additions here as well. You can also get Google Chrome through here, whereas normally you would have to go to Google's website to download Chrome. So Software Boutique, another great thing that Ubuntu Mate does. And if you want to go straight to seeing what all browsers you have available, there's this browser selection section in the Welcome app as well, from which you can get Firefox, which is installed by default, Chromium, Vivaldi, Google Chrome, Opera, or Brave. We'll stick with Firefox. Notably absent is GNOME Web, although I honestly wouldn't have expected it to be there anyway. Can you get that through software? Let's see. Because I use it on elementary. I wonder if it's in here. I'm aware I could just search GNOME Web up there, but, well, I want to see if it's actually in here. It is not. It is not. But if you search for something that is not in there, it will also clarify the boutique is just a collection of software. Install a software center to explore the entire Ubuntu catalog, which you can do over here, from which you have links to install GNOME software, as well as the Synaptic Package Manager, which of course is primarily for advanced users. Now, I did mention earlier, one thing I wanted to go into briefly, because I don't want to just read through the whole thing like I did in my original takes of this, is the release notes blog post that Martin Wimpress put out for Ubuntu Mate 1910. And it is very extensive, very transparent. In like the opening line down here, he clearly even says he has not been completely happy with the quality of recent Ubuntu Mate releases. He mentions that there were a lot of little issues that by themselves weren't really deal breakers, but there were like so many of them that in aggregate, they very much soured the experience. So one of the things they focused on with this release was just addressing a lot of paper cuts. And to do that, they significantly expanded their quality assurance team and have undergone weekly testing for this release cycle. So I mentioned earlier how some panel issues were fixed, regards with layout switching and stuff. And this blog post goes over just a bunch of things that were fixed and changed, and some apps that were switched out, new defaults, such as instead of VLC, they use GNOME MPV by default, and instead of Thunderbird, they switched to Evolution. Part of the reasons for those was better integration with the desktop, as well as taking up less space on the ISO, which the main reasons for that were that with Ubuntu 1910, the entire family of flavors, the NVIDIA proprietary drivers are now included on the ISO, so that makes it a lot easier for newer users that are running NVIDIA graphics cards to get up and running. It did also add more space to the ISO, and the Ubuntu Mate team wanted to keep the ISO at around 2 gigabytes, so they did a bunch of optimizations, such as switching out the aforementioned apps, as well as removing some much less used language packs. So where before, if they didn't do those optimizations, the ISO would have been at around 2.5 gigabytes, they reduced that down to 2 gigabytes, which isn't a super big deal if you have a fast internet connection, but I'm sure that that is much appreciated for people with slower internet. So I'm going to leave a link to the blog post down in the description below. I encourage you to look through it if you're interested in the latest happenings with Ubuntu Mate 1910. And yeah, mostly I just wanted to give praise to the Ubuntu Mate team for I guess specifically Martin Wimpress, although I don't know how much input the rest of the team had on his blog post, but it's a very thorough blog post, very transparent about the development process, so I appreciate them doing that. And I really wanted to bring attention to that. And overall, like I said earlier, Ubuntu Mate isn't really for me because I don't care much for the Mate desktop for a variety of reasons, but they do a lot of things right to make it user-friendly, so I appreciate the work that they do, even if it is not for me. So that all being said, that mostly covers the Ubuntu Mate portion of this video. I want to talk a little bit about some things that I have upcoming. I am also testing the vanilla Ubuntu 1910 beta on the test machine. This right now is running inside of a virtual machine because of that. Normally I like to do all my distro overview stuff on bare metal, but my test machine is currently occupied with vanilla Ubuntu because I'm trying to do a more thorough testing of that for the upcoming final release, which is when I'll do my overview of vanilla Ubuntu. So that's kind of what I've got planned right now. I don't know if I'll have any other videos coming out now between now and then, because like I mentioned in my Where I've Been video, I've been busy with like college stuff, and it's just kind of, I suck at time management is really what it comes down to. I'm the worst at time management. So this video itself has been kind of taking some time because of I wasn't sure how I wanted to do it. But yeah, so sometime around the final release of Ubuntu 19.10. You can expect my video covering it. Hopefully not too long after the final release. I will try to get that out within a day or two of the final release. It might take longer, we'll see. But that's enough rambling. Till next time, this has been Axel. Thank you guys for watching. If you would like to support the channel, you can also do so via the support link in the description below, if you so choose. Till next time, though, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.